Okay.
All right.
Are we on, Julie?
I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second?
A roll call?
Vicky,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
any action?
No action.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
You too, Bill. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Didn't we do that?
No, we just come out of executive
Executive
session.
session.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Second?
All right, roll call, Julie?
Vicky,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Yes.
Sabrina,
Thank you. We'll reconvene as Portage County Commissioners. All right, Janet, you're up.
Nice to see you guys in person.
Yes. There you
Oh,
go.
I usually see
Wait.
you. I only have one discussion item on my agenda, and if you see is the Director of Performance Evaluations. I did have a director inquire about if the commissioners were going to do evaluations on their directors.
Mhm.
So I thought I'd bring that question to the board. I feel bad that Vicky's over there. I just thought I'd bring that question to the board to see. And Tony, just to kind of catch you up, last year we actually revised, and you'll have it in your packet, in the section of policy manual. We revised the section for performance evaluations, really only requiring departments to give evaluations on probationary employees.
Really?
And once they reach past their probation, then it was really up to the departments if they wanted to give formal performance evaluations. But at least the requirement was in the moment discussions, and directors or supervisors were to document those conversations with employees. We decided that was just last year, January of last year. So that's the section that you have in your policy manual.
We do not, that was voted on. That's the new, we don't do employee evaluations. Directors do not do it, but the directors want yearly evaluations.
Yeah, well, I only heard from one director that was
Okay,
asking about evaluation.
But I mean, that should
But
be.
that's- But that's where you really, I think last year, I think the commissioners more or less decided to follow the policy manual, including with the directors.
Mhm.
Like only having, whenever you know, have a conversation with us when you want to have a conversation, instead of just the one official one
It's,
time a
it's the
year.
new way. It's called in the moment, because
Yeah.
you know, it's hard to evaluate someone. Like the directors were only getting evaluated every 2 years.
Right.
wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was-
They were not every year. So then, you know, unless you've documented really good notes,
Mhm.
it's normally whatever had happened within the last 3 months
Yeah.
that we sort of based it on. And so we switched to in the moment for at least allow the directors to do that for their staffing. But now they're asking, are we gonna be evaluating them? We only evaluate the directors.
Yeah.
I still need that in a moment. So when I get ticked off and I call you out, or I think you did something good, that means in the moment and then it's gone?
Well, it's not gone. You either document it,
Mhm.
but it stays in the personnel file
Wow.
or whatever, yeah.
Interesting.
But the departments, the policy manual allows for, you know, the departments, if they want to do the formal official performance
Mhm.
evaluations on their department staff, they're allowed to do that if the department chooses to do that. We were given them the option of continuing the evaluation system or only have the in the moment conversations. And as far as I know, I believe JFS is the only department possibly that's only doing the evaluations for employees. They're doing the in the moment plus the formal evaluation. So I believe Kelly Jo's gonna come to the board in a couple weeks
Okay.
to discuss that. She's gonna start the evaluations for her department. I thought maybe Water Resources was also doing the formal evaluations. So that may be another one that may be doing them, but for the most part, the departments are just doing the in the moment conversation.
So in the moment conversations is a trend for many places to do in the
We actually
moment?
did research, I was the end of 19 possibly, and that's what it was just, the feedback that we were receiving was hardly anybody was doing formal evaluations, really because of that. So you have to look back, unless you document very, very well
Mhm.
for the entire year. You have a tendency to unfortunately tend to base the evaluation on things that happened
Most
in the recent
recent.
past,
Right.
you know. And then at the same time, we don't we don't offer merit pay.
Right.
So some employees felt like just, what's the use of evaluation? You know, it's just,
I can see that.
so we actually, that's really why we decided to change our policy for that. And yeah, so the employees, as far as I know, I mean, I haven't heard any negative feedback about the media conversations or in the moment conversations that departments are having. They do have a form. We create a form, or they have their own form to use. So there are forms out there that directors or supervisors or managers, whoever, can document the
And
conversation.
the moment is positive or negative.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Exactly.
Mhm, absolutely.
Interesting.
It's more accurate.
Mhm, yeah. But the real question that came, because I know, I did have a director that asked me if the board was gonna do formal performance evaluations on the directors this year. And so I don't know if you guys want to adjust that as a board, if you want to think about it.
You know,
let us
I don't think we've done them in how long?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're due to have them, to be honest, because if nothing else, they sort of like the feedback and the direction from us that we normally don't get the one-on-one with them without doing something.
I think the last one was, I think in 18.
Yeah, so we're
Formal
due.
evaluations were
We're due.
18, yeah.
That should be, I would think that would be done on a yearly basis.
And what happened, just so you kind of know, and I don't know if the process wants to change this year, but what we did is that we had the director evaluate themselves. They filled out the form, you filled out the form, and then the director and the commissioners met, then you had a discussion.
Okay.
That's what happened in the past. So,
Yeah.
want to
I
continue?
thought we had talked about that, because those are either so off, either we have director, who really underrate themselves because they don't, I mean, I question the validity and, just give them an extra step, or we have directors that think, they give them all high ratings and then they get diffused if they come in, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Vicki, do you remember what we decided? I thought we were doing away with the self-evaluations, but maybe I'm thinking wrong.
You know what? I don't know that we actually made a decision on that,
Yeah.
but if we're going to be going back to formal evaluations, does that mean in the moment then is not going to happen anymore? I mean, is that what we're talking about?
I thought we were talking about only directors.
Directors.
Right, absolutely, only directors, but I mean, there's the formal evaluation and then there's in the moment. Are we talking about doing both or?
Well, we're allowing the directors to do the in the moment for their employees. We
Oh,
don't-
okay,
Not to get confused. but yeah.
okay, so we're not doing in the moment to the directors then, is that what you're saying?
I personally like to see both. If Janet's doing a really good job, I'd like to say, hey, Janet, that's great. Thanks for doing that. And hey, Janet, you screwed up, and give it a moment. And then at the end of the year, beginning of next year, we look at Janet's moments and evaluate her that way. I
That
think
makes sense, yeah.
with the directors, if that's who we're responsible for.
And especially if we're only doing them every 2 years. I mean, I always question that too, because I mean, that's a long time to go. But if we're doing in the moment, at the same time we're doing it, then it wouldn't seem as bad.
When do we usually do evaluations? January, December?
Usually have them done by March 31st.
I was gonna say by 1st of April. we have them done.
So like this year, March 31st would be based on performance
Since last year.
last
Yeah,
year.
I personally would like to see evaluations of directors yearly.
Yeah.
I don't think every other year gives any of us an opportunity to fix our issues. I think they should be done on a yearly basis.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in agreement then, we'll go ahead and do the evaluations this year for all the directors.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Sounds good.
You want to keep with March 31st?
Please.
yeah, we want to keep with it, yeah, to
Okay.
keep it
And do you
consistent.
want to keep with the process, at least for this year, then
Yeah.
you do want the directors to self-evaluate? And then,
That's
I
fine.
mean, until we,
That'll be fine, and then change it.
And we'll see how it goes, and if we're still seeing some of the concerns we had before, then we'll rethink.
okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah. And then I just want to give you a quick update with the Water Resources Director posting.
Mhm.
As of yesterday afternoon, we have yet to receive any completed.
When did we post that? Last
It
Friday?
was January 15th, so it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow.
2 weeks tomorrow?
Yeah,
And that's
so
what we
it-
said we were gonna do, is 2-week basis.
Yeah, so it expires tomorrow.
Okay,
We are receiving some interest on Indeed But
Okay.
those applicants only send in their resume. So we respond back to those individuals saying, you need to fill out an application.
Okay.
But as of yesterday afternoon, we have not had anyone respond to our original posting.
Does anybody on Indeed look by the resume? That they would
I'll
fill?
have to look at them, yeah, because right now, we're just responding back to them. There's only been a few
Okay.
that,
Do we look at the resume, say, hey, you look good,
Yeah.
and hey, fill out this, or anybody that sends us a resume, do we tell them all?
right now, anyone that sends their resume, Jenna's responding back.
Okay.
telling
But are
them
we
to-
making sure though, like, that they're qualified? I mean, I'd hate to be wasting, because I know, I get ZipRecruiter and I get people that have no experience. It's just like they're meeting their unemployment requirements. And so that's why I'm
Right,
asking,
right.
because this is a specific, you have to have specific skills and certifications. It's not
Absolutely.
just any engineer can
Right.
fill.
Yeah.
So at this point, what do you suggest? I know we put off on the papers because it's so daggone expensive. I
Yeah.
still think,
I agree with that discussion we had last week, or 2 weeks ago, that a person looking for this level of job isn't gonna go through the Record Courier
no,
or the Advocate or
Yeah.
Gateway Press or wherever. I don't think they're gonna sit down and do that. Why don't we take a week off and then do it again? And then, but those resumes should be straight,
Yeah.
pile of
Yeah.
no, and then once we have a pile of maybes, that's when they'll fill out more paperwork.
I'll have Jenna send me
Yeah.
those.
yeah.
Because right now, she's just responding back to those applicants.
Because also at that level of entry, that is normally what you do. You send in a cover letter and a resume. You don't fill out
You don't
any
fill out-
application until
Right.
after you've talked to someone or you feel like you want to move forward, and vice versa. We may call someone and realize they don't have the certifications, and this is not a job you can give them a probationary period to get it. They have to have it going in.
No, would you, because I did look at the posting yesterday to see if there's any kind of changes to the language, maybe to, I guess, encourage more interest in the posting. Like, for example, right now, we require an individual to currently have an Ohio professional engineer's license.
Mhm.
Is there any interest at all in maybe possibly changing that and a person should get it within 12 months of employment?
No, they should have it when they start.
Okay.
That,
Yeah, 'cause
that-
I
that
don't know
level-
if it's reciprocal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think they'd have to
'Cause
be,
if they're having another state, then if they're thinking about moving to Ohio, if they have
we
Pennsylvania.
I don't know-
really
I don't
have
know
to
that.
verify that to see, maybe you could ask John Vance, to see if we had someone from out of state that was interested and qualified, but that the licensing or certification
Right.
transfer was an issue.
yeah, that, I didn't even think.
To look
of that.
into that, yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
In the past, haven't the directors had a probationary period?
They do, Vicky, but what she's saying is, if they're not licensed in Ohio with their certifications, would we give them like a period of time to get the license, like a year?
R-
And they said, no, they need to have it coming on, but I said, we should check to see how long, or if
It
there's,
takes,
or if any of those are reciprocal
Right.
across state lines. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not.
yeah.
The period that we have now is evaluation. Are you doing your job?
Yeah, it's not.
Right. Not by certifications.
No, that would have to be something in the job offer
Mhm.
letter that
Yeah.
Yep.
versus a probationary.
Yeah, we would have that language in the offer letter.
Are we getting anybody from out of state? Got a few.
Not
Okay.
that I've
Not
heard.
yet.
Not that I've heard.
And I was just on a call this morning with the development board. Our unemployment rate is way low. I mean, people are dying to get people. I mean, there's so many jobs and that's all we hear. There's not enough people. So, okay.
But I'll hold off for a week.
Yep.
And then start again.
Start
next-
again.
Next week and see what happens.
Yeah, we'll
And
do it
in the
another
meantime,
2
though,
weeks and
I'll have Jenna send the resumes or whatever she's received over to me just to see what.
See which, and just start screening them right now, and that's who gets the other letter. Yeah.
And Janet, John gave us up to 6 months, so that clock will start today. I might want to write that down.
Right.
I will write that.
Yes, it's today, 6 months. That goes into July.
Yeah,
Hopefully we'll have a resolution or get some.
I hate to say it, but July's gonna be here probably before we know it.
Okay. All right, Janet, your journal entries, is there anything you want to comment, or are they just normal procedures and want to tell me to go ahead and start?
Personal journal entries.
Okay.
Interest. Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to authorize a part-time hire for Cheryl Kendrick as a temporary utility building service representative, new position for the Department of Budget and Finance Management. Anticipated start date is February 1st, 2021. The Board of Commissioners agrees that this hire is a contingent upon the application and passing the required pre-employment testing.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Julie?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
I move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to authorize a part-time hire of Cynthia Heffley as a temporary utility billing service representative, new position as Department of Budget and Finance Management. Anticipated start date is February 2, 2021. The Board of Commissioners agrees that the hire is contingent upon the applicant passing the required pre-employment testing.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Julie?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
I move that the Board of Commissioners accept the resignation of Michelle Whitner, Clerical Specialist 3, for Portage County Jobs and Family Services, effective date January 29th, 2021.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to authorize the 3-day interval posting of the full-time Clerical Specialist 3, replacing Michelle Whitner, the Portage County Jobs and Family Services, with the external posting. If no internal appointment is made, the vacant position will be posted once the hire freeze is lifted.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to rescind the resolution number 21.
not yet.
Pardon?
We gotta wait for Joanne
Excuse
comes
me,
in.
I'm sorry.
No, that's,
I got so
Sue.
excited I was doing it right.
Johnson Services is next.
Thank you, Janet.
Janet.
Family?
yeah, job and family.
Oh, Jobs and Family.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can sit in
Are
here
they
while you're doing that
on?
one.
Oh, there's Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Hi,
I gotta
how's everybody this morning?
Good.
Good. I just have two today. The first one is a rescinding of the resolution that we did last week because we made a slight error. We were doing a negative expenditure on a line that didn't have any expenditures yet, so we'll have to wait and do that later. So we're just rescinding that resolution that we passed last week.
Okay.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to rescind resolution number 21-0052 to transfer $54,621.71 from the fund of 1413 WIA fund to the fund of 1410 Public Assistant Fund.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Julie?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Move
Right,
that,
and the second one is just replacing that one without that negative. So it's moving our shared costs that need to be paid back from 1413, which is our WIA fund, to public assistance.
it's moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to transfer $56,211.71 from the fund of 1413 WIA fund to the fund of 1410 Public Assistant Fund.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, next we got Joanne.
Yes. My first resolution is, this is replacing WageWorks. If you can remember seeing the email that came from HR
Oh, yeah.
and Susan Lynn saying that they're no longer, that they've been taken over by somebody who doesn't want to do the work that we need done. So Medical Mutual can do that for us. This is an agreement for the flexible spending plans for the employees for the year 2021.
Make,
Go ahead.
I move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to enter into agreement Medical Mutual of Ohio to provide administrative services with the employee elections of the medical expenses and dependent care expenses for Portage County employees, Section 125 Flexible Spending Account, FSA, plan for 2021.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Number 2 is amendment number 7 between the Commissioners and the Portage Development Board for their services. $50,000 a year is what you've always given them. And it's to do economic development for, for our county.
As well as the support for the bricks and mortar office and stuff.
Yeah.
Other ways that we support
It
development.
changes, yeah.
Okay.
It's moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to enter into amendment number 7 between the Portage County Bureau or Board of Commissioners and Portage Development Board.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Next is we're setting up the proposal dates and getting the documents ready for request for proposals for the Department of Job and Family Services for transportation.
Okay.
It's moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to set a proposal date for transportation services and Department of Jobs and Family Services.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
And the next is setting up the dates for requests for qualifications for professional engineers for water resources. This is to do the water design for the village of Manaway water system that we just recently took over.
The Board of Commissioners agrees to set a proposal date. The request for the qualifications for professional engineering consultant services for the water design services of the village of Manaway Public Water System in Portage County for the Portage County Water Resource Department.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
And the next is the same exact thing, except this is for the public sanitary sewer system. Manaway.
It's moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to set a proposal date for the request for qualifications for professional engineer consulting services for water waste design services for the village of Manaway Public Sanitary Sewer Systems in Portage County for Portage County Water Resource Department.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Okay, and the next is a resolution to enter into the MOU between the Board of Commissioners and John Bentz as the interim director for Portage County Water Resources.
It's moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to enter into the memorandum for the understanding between Portage County Board of Commissioners and John Vance as the interim director of Portage County Water Resources Department.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Okay, and then if you remember yesterday afternoon, I sent you an add-on on behalf of the Sheriff's Department. This is the agreement that Chris Maduri had sent you all on behalf of them for Clemens Nelson and Associates to do various services. The reason that they asked me to bring it forward is because based on the information that was out on raises that were subsequently given, the union now has spoke up, and if they don't start negotiating and working with them before Monday, they're going to file a grievance, and they're trying to avoid that happening. I know that some of the information that they're getting for their scope of services with this may seem redundant, that we've had it done before, or in some cases, I've heard that we're going to be wanting to do a new compensation or something, but I don't even have the information on that yet to do an RFP to get companies to bid on that for us or with us. So I think that in all fairness to them, to try to, get them working, I think that we should go ahead and enter into this. I know at one point, I thought that the sheriff was gonna reach out and come and talk to you guys about it. But with the meeting that I had yesterday with Ralph and Dave, and then they showed me on the phone, we were sitting right there when that grievance thing came up, and they were wanting to move a little bit quicker on it, and that's why I brought it forward. They're gonna use them for their labor negotiations, serve representation, ADA pieces going forward. And I agree that it would be nice if we all used one compensation plan, and I don't see a reason why, once we have somebody that the county is going to use, that we can't morph that into ours
Yeah,
and
bundle
then
it.
just reduce this down.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now, Joanna, is that in the sheriff's budget or is that something extra?
Is that in the sheriff's like contract services, or is this
contract
extra?
services line, yes, it is.
Okay,
That's where they intended to take it from.
Okay,
So I don't know what, if you please go ahead and,
I had a chance to talk to him, and from what I've been told is 50%, over 50% of the sheriff departments in the state of Ohio utilize Clemens Stone for this activity. So.
they're widely known, but,
Yep.
and like, there are others out there that people use, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
This is who they suggested and went with, and worked with Chris Maduri on, so,
yeah, and Chris has already signed off on it,
yes,
right?
he has.
Okay,
The only people I don't have is I don't have the auditor cert on it yet, and I don't have your folks's, but this morning, Ralph had someone deliver from the sheriff's department a copy of it signed by the sheriff, so. As soon as I get downstairs, if this passes, I'll put it in the Munis system and then get it back up here for signature by you guys, and then we'll be
Okay.
set to go.
I think we need to be consistent. I think that's a good thing. I mean, rather than having somebody else for them.
yeah, well, Vicki, I brought up the same thing, because I was thinking that, we're looking at updating our scale, and we have not had good luck with Clemson and Nelson's. We had issues with them, and I asked Joanne about that. But then she said, that they said that the majority of the sheriff's departments, or probably just law enforcement in general, but uses Clemens Nelson. So I don't know, or like Joanne said, maybe we bring them up, although, the sheriff was offered to participate in that and declined to do so when we did do the wage study. But, even though it's a prior sheriff,
Right.
it was offered to everyone. They just did not participate in it.
Yeah, all your elected officials the last time didn't participate,
Yeah.
You basically left it up to them.
Exactly.
So,
Is that what the sheriff's department's planning on doing this as a wage study? I
well,
thought it was more legalities,
it's all of the above, I think.
that the opportunity is there.
Yes, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
saying, I think if it needs, if they're not at that point by the time we start,
Mhm.
maybe they'll want to come in to the one that we do countywide.
Right.
Otherwise, I think that they're trying very hard, people are, at least I get the impression they're trying very hard to get everything in some sort of semblance of order that they feel is gonna be workable with their budgets and so forth.
Yeah, I've asked Ralph point blank, and he said they are not planning on doing a wage study because you can get enough information from all the counties surrounding us.
Well, and they brought that up yesterday. I forget, he mentioned several counties that they did, kind of did their own
Right,
study.
right.
And I think that that's part of the reason why they had, they've got Dave Lair.
Correct.
He's doing that kind of financial kind of thing for
Right.
them as well. So
Right, exactly. That's what I've heard. That's
I
what
think
I've
it's
been told.
more, they want to make sure that they're following the steps that need to be done when it comes to the unions.
Yes.
Because they've got those final contracts that are.
Well, yeah, they're up.
Well, just to make it clear though, we've known for years that they've been underpaid out there.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Terribly. I'd like to see everything we can do, get to the sheriff's department. I've only lived in Portage County for 30 years, but it always seems like it's been this way, that they're kind of like our redheaded stepchildren. We have to have them, and I'd like to see them a strong department.
Well, and I found out yesterday that, they don't have body cams.
Right.
They don't have
Dash
cameras in their
cams.
cars.
Right.
They're one of the last, offices around that don't. So I was talking with Michelle, and Michelle said that she's going to call Corsa today because there's grants out there.
Mhm.
for body
Well, I was
cams and
gonna
things
say,
like
that was great.
So that we can, and unfortunately, the prior administration didn't reach out or didn't respond when
Yeah.
you send them and say, well, look at this. Are you, applying for these grants or whatever? And if you don't hear back,
Yeah.
it's how far can I insert myself to say, you should be applying for this grant?
Right, you can't, and you
You
can't,
can't make them.
especially at that level. You can't.
Exactly.
And
And
I-
I think the way I gathered yesterday is that they're very interested in whatever money they can get coming in to help,
For grants. Right.
help take it off the rest. So I'm gonna have Michelle work with them on the body cams and things like that, because if we can get that through Corsa, that's great.
I have a question about the grants. If I get a grant, if I'm the sheriff's department and I get a $200,000 grant for body cams or whatever, does the county take that off of their funds that we give them? Or once I get a grant, that is, I went above and beyond to get this grant, and you're not taking it off my budget?
No, once their budget's allocated,
Okay.
it's allocated.
Yeah, and then, but
And the
any
rest of
grant
the
they
time-
get,
When that grant comes in, that's put in a separate fund.
Yeah, it has
It's
to be.
accounted for financially different than your normal general fund money.
And sometimes there's match monies to
Yeah,
the
right.
grants.
There
I
could be,
mean,
yeah.
I just
so-
want to be clear on that.
But on the other hand, if they need additional funds for the match or whatever, then they would come to us.
Exactly.
Okay.
Unless
just-
they have it in one of their other outside funds, outside the general fund, because they do have.
Different
some
accounts,
others,
right,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify this because I've heard things about the grant that they built their facility with and the struggle they had.
Build their facility.
I have to be honest, I didn't realize the prior sheriff was not applying for grants that he should have been. Because I do know I've signed a couple papers permitting them to get a grant. So I didn't know there were grants out there that they weren't applying for, because I do know he came before us several times
Yeah.
and left very angry because he kept telling how much they were underpaid and overworked, and it kind of was a deaf ear.
Yeah, though I think they get the Marine Patrol grant. There's certain
Yeah.
grants they get every year.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those
Sort
are
of like the
ones that-
courts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what, Vicki, to be honest, in the sheriff's defense, former Sheriff Doak, when the body cams came out, not everyone had them because they were cost prohibited. But then I think the city of Kent was the first department, them or Aurora was the first department to get the body cams. Now, as time has evolved, more and more of them have it,
And the
so,
prices have gone down.
and the prices have gone down. It's like having a VCR.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that term? Not in a while, but when they first came out, they were $400 and now you can get them for $29.99, I think that's what's happened. So he would need to just look, at grants and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I said. We'll help wherever we can that way. And Michelle was the first one to say, and I said, well, we'll check the Bureau of Workers' Compensation too.
Mhm.
Because that's
Insane.
definitely another place that has grants for different things, so
Right.
we'll help them out.
Well, and they were one of the last ones to actually get the computers
Right.
in their cars. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah, that's why I said,
everyone else
it's
had them.
it's morphing around now, and so.
Yeah. But it's always a budgetary concern, it seems like.
And I think they'll be very conscious of getting as much money as they can without burdening us.
Let's hope so. Yeah,
I
think
believe so.
We're not an open check.
Well, like I said, I do believe they've been underpaid for years and years. However, I do think this sheriff is being treated differently than the former sheriff.
Well, I think, Vicki, we do have to be cautious in how we treat this going forward, because I would agree, the sheriff's department is not the only department that we hear this from. Our own departments say the same thing, Jobs and Family Services. How many times have you heard Kelly Jo say that? It has to be fair across the board. Everyone comes to us in silos, and that's all they care about is their departments. It's our job as the county commissioners to look at the big picture
Well, and hopefully.
That has nothing to do with what I just said, though, Sabrina. I understand the big picture. And I'm not saying we should look at each department in a silo. I'm just saying, I agree 100% that that department has been underpaid for years, and they're an extremely vital department. I mean, they're our law and order. But I
100%.
do believe this sheriff is being treated differently than our former sheriff. That's all. I'm just making a statement. I'm not saying that we need to treat any department in a silo.
Okay. How do you think he's being treated differently? I guess.
Well, I think we're just maybe giving more permissions to do whatever. I mean, I think when the former sheriff came to us about raises and everything, I mean, he got a lot of criticism and just kind of blank stares, and he didn't just go ahead and do it. And that's what's happened here.
I think when we look at the sheriff's numbers, that I think he may be under his budget by doing what he did with that executive staff and cutting it. I think we'll be surprised that that number is actually under what's in his budget.
But he got sales tax money that we're not going to be getting this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now he has $1 million plus $152,000 that's not in his budget. And that's the concern. Tony, as a new commissioner, I mean, we haven't even met with the sheriff to come in to go over, you know.
I think we should invite him to come in and tell
Oh, I
us
have,
to
but-
what they did.
He's supposed to be getting with Ralph.
Okay.
He should be coming in because,
Yeah.
you know, we just got an email last night that, you know, he wants 20 new cars. It's like, where's this money coming from?
Did we get cars last year or the year before?
We
Did-
get like
did Sheriff
5
Joe,
a year.
the 5 or 6 that we were supposed to get, did they actually get them or did they refuse them?
No, last year we got 7, I believe 7
7?
Tahoes or
Okay.
6
Yeah.
Tahoes. You did it.
You know, Todd has a plan for the cars.
Yes.
And the way he answered that email is, you know, that he's never planned for 20 cars in 1 year. So obviously that needs to be discussed.
Well, you know, I agree with you, Vicki, because I remember when I came in 14, the prior board had allowed for the sheriff's department to get 15 cars at the same time. The problem is then they all go down at the same time. I mean, it's better to spread it out like what we're doing. But we'd have to hear to see, you know, what's the justification, because we thought in our minds by doing the enterprise, it was replacing them every 5 years because there's high miles and usage on them.
And then, but in all fairness to that, they're not lasting 5 years because they were running them 24/7,
Or hot
all
seat?
3 shifts. And they weren't making, you know, by the time the 5th year rolled around, if they even lasted that long, the mileage was 300,000, 275 to 300,000.
But then, you know, Joanne, all we ever heard is there's 15, 20 cars in that parking lot at all times that are sitting there.
Well, I don't know how many people he has on the road at one time, you know, so that's why I said, if there's a plan, they need to come in and talk to you guys.
Oh, yeah,
Because
absolutely.
back in the day, we did give them a car per road deputy, and it was his responsibility to make sure that those cars were taken care of at that time. And then it morphed into, well, now we're gonna do the enterprise kind of thing, and we're only gonna have so many cars. But back,
You know, this is
part of that had to
probably-
do with, we had our own motor pool. Those guys made sure that the guys brought them in on time and took care of them.
How long ago was that?
That
Because
was 2
enterprise
years
has only been
ago.
3 years.
I think the layoff at the motor pool was in 18. am I not-
Yeah, because Mike Kerrigan was here.
Yeah.
And then we went with enterprise. It started in October, but we didn't really start until 19, I don't
Right.
think. So only 2 years. We
Yeah.
haven't been in
And
for
I
years.
forget how many years they project that you have to be in the program before you see maybe the realization.
And this is probably a conversation to have Todd involved in.
Yeah.
He understands more of the enterprise.
Yeah.
And the way that operates.
Does anybody else understand that besides Todd?
No. Well, Joanne, she's the next closest thing that would have a clue,
Do
but Todd
do you have a
understands
clue
the enterprise.
or completely
I see
understand?
I see the leases.
Okay, yeah.
As they come through.
Okay.
My thing is I don't, he pays the lease bills.
Right.
So he would know, I think, more on
He's
what we-
next. Julie's
Yeah.
gonna go get him, so.
what would actually be the savings,
Right.
what we realize
he-
in savings, he should be able to.
Yeah, because I think we were all a little shocked last night to get that they wanted a purchase order for 20 cars. Todd,
Mhm.
we're talking about the sheriff's requests last night that you received
Mhm.
regarding, now you've had conversations with them, correct?
I spoke with Ralph the one day that he came over when he first started, yeah.
So, because I noticed you said you need like a 10-year plan, or how are we
Well,
gonna?
they're changing the way they want to do the vehicles. Currently, each deputy drives the vehicle for their shift. They bring it back to the sheriff's station and another deputy steps into that vehicle. What they would like to do is have each deputy have their own vehicle so that I only ever drive car number one, you only ever drive car number two. I'm not sure if they're even having them take them home or not. But that's a shift. So right now we only have 23 vehicles. That was an agreement worked out all the way back when Kathleen Chandler was here, that the commissioners would keep 23 road patrol vehicles running. And at the time, the sheriff indicated with his staff that that's the number that they needed to do
Yeah,
the shift
okay.
transfers and whatnot. So our current plan is based on keeping those 23 running. If every deputy is going to have their own take-home vehicle, we need 40 plus cars to go to each deputy. And so that's what this purchase that was currently proposed is about, is shifting this process. There are goods and bads to both. One of the good things with giving each deputy their own vehicle is you have less wear and tear on each car. One of the bad things is, though, you tend to turn in vehicles with, say, 95 or 100,000 miles, you really don't get any more sellback value between a 100,000 car versus a $150,000 car or 150,000 mile car. So in terms of selling them back, we're kind of going to start turning them in with maybe some excess value left on them. So you have to weigh whether that is worth the decreased maintenance, all that type of stuff. So what I indicated to Ralph last night was that, that was going to be part of our plan, was trying to lay all that out in terms of what is our current maintenance, what do we expect, how are these vehicles going to use? In my mind, that needs kind of looked at before we make this decision to jump in. I will also point out that prior to Sheriff Doak, we did have a system where every deputy had their own vehicle. Part of what Sheriff Doak did was he went to the system we currently have now, and with some of the savings on vehicle purchases, he hired additional staff. So, now we want to go back. The question is, are they going to be able to reduce
Reduce their
staff
staff.
because of this process, or are we keeping all that staff and adding these costs? Those are things I don't have the answers to. I don't know. That's part of why in the email I indicated, if there's staffing changes as well, let's look at it all together.
Gotcha, okay.
So that we're
makes
knowing
sense.
all at once
Okay.
what this is doing in terms of, because there's other changes they're going to be bringing forward, in how they want to run things. And it could be that there's savings in one place and extra costs in the other, or it could be that there's overall more
Wash
costs.
out,
We just
yeah.
need to know so you guys can make a decision of whether that's the value that you want to purchase for Portage County or not.
Okay,
So Todd, so Sheriff Doak was here about 12 years,
yes.
12? So it's been about 12, 14 years ago that they were working on cars per deputy.
Joanne would know more about
Yeah.
that. I
was
believe
gonna
Sheriff
say-
Doak kind of started that transition
Oh,
too.
okay.
Yeah, I was
It
gonna
was
say.
before
no.
him.
Well, no, during his tenure, I think the motor pool, and I believe they had their more vehicles.
Right.
And it wasn't until later on when they decided to go to the,
Reduce it down.
to reduce it down.
I've been here 7 years,
Okay.
and we were under, the way we operate now was how I came in, but I do know that it was changed shortly before I came in, so it may have been 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, we're really hurting ourselves if we're getting enterprise cars and doing what you just said, we're hot seating them. I think they've had 3 cases of COVID and all 3 of them drove the same car. So if we're hot seating the car all day, that car is going to be worthless in 3 to 5 years versus the other way. And that we have officers have that. I mean, that's a maintenance nightmare to keep a car driving 24 hours a day.
Partly, yes, although right now, a lot of our maintenance is things like tires and brakes,
Mhm.
which we are not going to reduce those costs. I mean, whether you have 20 cars or 40 cars, we're driving the same miles.
Yeah.
There may be some issues though with like engine issues and whatnot, so that's part of what we need to look
For
at.
the value, as you said, the
What
value
is
of
the
a car.
current, you know, what does our current repairs look like and which ones of those do we think come off? To be honest, some of our biggest repairs are accidents, which,
Yeah.
I mean, those are gonna still
And Todd,
exist as well.
what's the difference though, if they have an assigned car that they leave at the station versus driving it home every night?
Well, and we kind of talk about this, you know, with a road patrol car, you have two issues. Mileage causes parts to wear out, but so does time. So even if a car only has 50,000 miles on it, if it's crossing the 7-8 year threshold, you still need to replace it because there are certain parts that you don't want to put in a high-speed pursuit if it's been sitting for 8 years.
Agreed.
So there's this dichotomy of this sweet spot where if you can get to around 120,000 miles in 7 years, that's the perfect use of a car.
What if you can get to 75,000, get rid of that?
You know, if you're at the 8 year threshold and you only have, let's say, 70,000 miles, nobody's still going to buy it because they know it's an 8-year-old car.
Mhm.
So you aren't getting extra value.
What's a 5-year-old car then? It's got 75,000 miles on it, you get rid of it.
So that's where we're working with Enterprise. There is a market for used cars, a
Mhm.
fairly robust one from some of the smaller
Right.
departments. And our goal is to try and get into that market. We're just getting our foot in the door to
Okay.
experiment with, you know, what if we do start turning in our vehicles at 50,000 miles? Is the return on sale worth the value that we
Getting a
have
car.
left? We don't have that answer right now.
County back in the day, we used to buy used state highway patrol
Oh, yeah.
cars from North Carolina
Government.com.
that only had 70,000 miles on them. And I think that's kind of how our fleet got built to where they were all kind of using them.
Yeah, they
And I
don't
don't-
know.
I don't necessarily keeping them on station and leaving them there is the right thing to do. I think if you are a patrolman and you live up in Nelson, take your car home, and when something happens up there, you're closer to where something happens than driving all the way to, you know, and getting it. That's just the way I think.
I believe that to be it.
Yeah.
All the townships keep saying more patrols, and that's hard because nobody wants taxes raised. But if I've got 30 deputy cars driving around the county parked in somebody's driveway, well, maybe my car wouldn't have got stolen
Sometimes when
this
people
year.
see that.
It gives a presence that we
Yes,
currently don't have.
absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
part of what we're looking for with the townships is the presence of our deputies and sheriff's cars. Are they there? So if they all had it, and the number is 30 or 40 or whatever that is, I think the great comfort to a lot of people in this county.
And that's what we need to get out. So let's say the new process is $50,000 more
Mhm.
than the old process, but you are purchasing some peace of mind. On the other hand, if the new process is $2 million more, maybe you can't afford to purchase that peace of
I don't
mind.
think it's going to be
So
too
we
many,
need
but
to, I don't think so either. I'm just using the
Exactly,
example.
exactly.
We need to get the figures to look at. it, is what I
absolutely,
would think.
absolutely. So
Yeah, because Todd, do we have the figures from Enterprise for last year? I know our first year.
We have a load of data since we've been in Enterprise. I mean, we know every repair, we know the exact vehicles it went to.
could you do a printout for us so we might be able to see that?
I can, it's large.
That's cool.
We can provide it. Do you want
I'm a
it
little
just for the
slow.
sheriff or do you want it across the county?
I'd like to see because I just want to stick with sheriff's departments.
Okay,
Because they're the ones that beat the heck out of the cars.
True, the rest of the.
Everybody else is
rest of the
normal use it.
departments,
Yeah, they're not driving more than 20 miles, 30 miles a day.
And it's usually 8-hour shift.
Correct.
Yeah.
Versus a 24-hour shift.
the one thing I'm not sure we have, although we can get it when we take the cars in, there's also idle hours. So you could have a car with 50,000 miles, in fact, we bought one from Florida, but it has 300,000 idle hours,
yeah.
which basically means the engine's shot.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's good, but it's not.
Right,
I'm
agreed.
not sure if we get the idle hours, but I'll double check on
Yeah,
that.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Did you want to do the resolution then for, the add-on or not?
For the Nelson?
Mickey, do you have any comment on that?
No, I think we should pass it.
I move that the Board of Portage County Commissioners does hereby agree to enter into agreement by and between the Board of Commissioners and Clements Nelson Associations, Inc. to the amount of $20,000 and 00 cents, dollars 20,000 per year for the management and or fiscal consulting services. Am I reading the right thing?
Yeah, no, normally you would, but go ahead, finish.
Oh, okay. Fiscal consulting services, Portage County Sheriff's Department to be further.
Okay,
Second,
hey, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
I will, listen to it and get that going so that we can try and get it up here for you guys to sign before we leave.
Sounds good.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, Joanne. Todd, you're up.
Do you have the resolution number on that, the add-on?
79.
79? Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
79, yeah, oh, got it.
So what's the difference between that bill?
Hi, Todd.
Hey, Todd.
Good morning.
Good morning. Would you like to do the discussion first?
Yes.
So regarding our facilities, the board is hearing more and more how we have this large carryover balance. But what is not being said in conjunction with that is for roughly 3 years, the board has been wavering between what to do with the facilities. There's different philosophies between building new, adding on, remodeling, et cetera. And so a lot of that money has been saved up, if you will, for these projects. Last year, Commissioner Clyde volunteered to head up a group that was going to talk about it, but then COVID hit, and I'm not sure discussions ever happened. I'm just bringing it to this board's attention. We need to get those discussions happening again so that we know what we're going to do with our facilities. That allows us to complete our total financial plan, which right now the capital portion is severely lacking. And so when the board asked me, well, do we have money for this? Do we have money for this? Similar to, do we have money to afford to go to 43 sheriff's vehicles? Part of that answer is, well, I don't know because we don't have this other component. And so it would be very helpful for the board to begin expressing its desires on facilities so that we can begin filling out the rest of that plan. And it'll give us a better idea of what direction we can start moving in the future. I don't expect that to be able to happen on Thursdays, just in the 15 minutes that we have. And I don't know that the commissioners even can participate in every step. Obviously, groups of staff are going to need to sign and whatnot. But I guess what we'd like to start is at least fleshing out how that process is even going to work. And for that, we do need the 3 commissioners' participation. So I just want to put that on your radar. I don't know when you want to schedule it, but ideally it will happen sooner rather than later because we're already behind from where we should
Well,
be.
Todd, I was going to suggest, and if Vicki and Tony are fine, that Tuesday we have a work session because we do need to start addressing these issues. Otherwise, we're just going to get eat up with additional staff and increases in wages. And not that some of them aren't warranted, but at the same point in time, those are a continual cost, whereas the building and facility planning is a one-time cost. And even though we had a nice carryover this year, if we start looking at what we need to do with the facility planning and other projects like the airport, I mean, that money's gone. I mean, there's no big surplus. There's a surplus because for 3 years, we haven't really done anything.
And my stand has always been, so long as you have the information in front of you
Yeah.
and make decisions with that information, then we make good decisions. What we don't want to see is you guys make one decision and then 2 weeks later realize you didn't even know about
They
this,
include the other.
and now you can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, is to get this process going so that you do have all the information in front of you when you're talking about the variety of things. Our budget's basically 2 components. It's an operating where we continuously spend money, and that's probably 90% of our budget. And then you have a smaller component where we get to do some discretionary things, but right now that is severely lacking because we just haven't done it. I mean, if you look at our facilities, the old portion of the Justice Center was put on hold while we did the new construction. Of course, we have the old nursing home, we have Station 30, we have the old mortal pool, except for 2 years. We have the annex building empty right now. We have Riddle Block, which could eat millions and still look like it does. And then, of course, there's the airport and those type of things, so.
I'd like to push that, exactly what you said. In the last 2 weeks, I've been to every building except the airport that we've had. I've got some ideas of things that we ought to do and how we could possibly move people around. So I would very much move that, or enjoy the opportunity to work with those buildings and start getting ideas, going into work sessions on Tuesdays and bringing those forth, the things we can do. I think there's some serious solutions that are out there. We just got to think out of the box that we've been in for a while.
Well, and part of it, we haven't had any shortage of ideas. But this idea can't be done with that one. We've got to narrow it down to what we actually are gonna
We have
start
to
doing.
prioritize.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The flow of money. And again, we don't want to get caught up with what they did 10 years ago, where they didn't do any capital improvements. They kept just funding staff and increasing staff. And then our buildings, by the time they get to the point where they have to be fixed, it costs us twice as much because, our delay in keeping up with just the maintenance of them.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the airport. Do you want to update us on the recent email we received from the
Oh,
airport?
yeah, I'm not sure who all was copied on that, but Homer Lucas, who is the president of the airport board, we've been talking with him, and there is no secret that the airport is in financial trouble. He currently has $30,000 of cash and $78,000 worth of invoices sitting on his desk. He is going to need assistance from the county in some form. At least Vicki and Sabrina will recall the end of last year, we brought forward the proposal that it may be time for the county to take that under its wing and interact with it more directly. The question is, what kind of timeline is that? Because that will determine what sort of assistance the airport needs directly while they're still under the board versus at what point can some of this stuff wait. I would say that the airport, I consider it one of our facilities. So certainly that will need to be one of the highlights of the discussions to begin with, is what are we going to do with that? What is our timeline?
Well, actually, Chris is supposed to come in next week, and I thought he's gonna cover that for us as to sort of a timeline of what that would look like.
Yeah, we're hoping that we can get that together.
Yeah.
And all the parties involved are eager for this to happen. But there is a financial component to that, that's considerably beyond the $70,000 worth of invoices. There's some other issues at the airport, for example, right now, current board members will go up on the roof and patch it themselves. The county cannot have that happening if we're running it. If we're running it, we need to pay to fix the roof. So just the general maintenance is going to cost more if we take it over.
But we have so much
But it'll
more
be done right.
leverage to get grants and stuff, but
Correct.
they can't get it. They don't have the revenue to support even a match of the grant,
Right.
and that's what's limited them. I mean, they're pretty hand-tied with revenue generating out there with the way it's currently structured,
Yes.
which if we take it back, that will all
There's a lot of opportunities. Again, we just gotta
Yeah.
get it laid out right so that we aren't having last minute things always thrown at us, that we need to get ahead of the problem and make sure we're directing in that direction.
Todd, what should we do about that email from Homer? I mean, he's saying they
to
have
me, the first,
$21,000 on hand, but he's sitting there on $72,000 worth of bills. I mean, he's got to pay
Yeah.
something.
To me, the issue, if the commissioners can start coming up with that timeline, some of that money is owed to Mr. Bonner, who is also going to be part of the discussions. It's possible
FBO.
that he doesn't need that paid now if it's coming. Some of that money is with the tank invoices, which Chris is
Update
bringing
us on.
legal issues on. He's going to talk to that next week. So the answer is we need the plan so that we know where we're at, so we know what pieces we have to fill now versus what pieces can wait. And right now, it's just kind of chaotic because no one can provide an answer to anyone, and so everybody's screaming that they need help. So again, that's why I said that this needs to start happening sooner rather than later. We're already behind the task, so to speak.
So, Todd, what should our response to Homer be at this point in time?
I would tell them that we're looking into it and we'll get back to them within the next couple of weeks. I'd like to hear what Chris has to say on the tank. And I'd like to hear what his timeline is in terms of our ability to, act more directly at the airport. That is the choice the commissioners wish to go under. And that will go a long way to knowing, what it is that Homer needs to do now versus what we can take care of only.
Have the Board of Commissioners ever owned the airport, or has that always been is that a
Well,
private
so,
entity or?
Way back in the day, they sort of did, just as a landing strip, in the 1920s, 1930s, everybody just
Landed in
scooped
field?
some dirt
Yeah.
and planted place there. And in the 50s and 60s, that is when it became apparent that this was going to be a real airport designated such and whatnot. And it was in the, I want to say late 70s that we created the airport board. I know we've got a stack of papers outlining all that because this question always gets asked. So for a long time, it has been the board. Now, technically, the airport board is a entity of the commissioners. We sign off on every loan that they do and promise that the county will back it. We sign off on every grant that they have and promise that the county will back it. So while the airport board gets to make the decisions, the county is still on the line for anything that would happen, or if the airport board financially can't cover something, it is the county's issue. So it's kind of a quasi ownership right now. We just do it through an airport board, so everything doesn't have to come to you directly. I know we talked to several airports in the area, and there are a few that have reverted from board control to commissioner control. And we talked to them about why they did it and how that worked and whatnot. It gets cumbersome trying for you to pass money through a board, and then it's just a cumbersome process. For some counties it works well, and for some counties it doesn't.
It's not working for us.
Right now it is not, yeah.
Has it ever, when was the last time it worked?
So there was an issue 6 years ago where one of the hangars
Storm damage or something?
and it was insured for $80,000, and at that time it was going to take almost $400,000 to replace. So rather than replacing it, the board has just been spending that money. One of the issues was that hangar brought in $20,000 worth of revenue for the airport. So the loss of that continuous revenue has tipped them to where now even their basic operations, they can't keep their head afloat. The other issue that's happening is as they run out of money, some people are becoming more resentful because they aren't being reciprocated on some of the stuff they've done. So there's other backers of the airport who are kind of backing away saying, well, if you guys aren't contributing anything, why should I? So it's just kind of a growing problem that's come. The other issue that we have is Portage County has grown beyond perhaps what that airport can do. We have a lot of businesses saying they would like to land small jets there. If that's the direction, aviation is going. Our airport can't handle that. We don't have a restaurant. I know they put a little bagel shop that opens on the weekends.
Yeah.
There's amenities that we can provide. Everybody says we have a beautiful base airport and it's nice flat ground. It's a nice size. But there's just little things that our airport can't add on to make it that much more of a destination and that much more of an attractive component for economic development, et cetera. And those are the things that the commissioners are going to need to consider is, do we want to begin moving in the direction of expanding that airport so that it does become an economic development tool as well? Or do we want to take it back to where it's just a private, not private, but a use as you can kind of thing of what you have and not worry about it? The general chorus across the county is they'd like it to see it become an economic development engine that it could be, but this airport currently can't do that. So that's the other issue is even had the hangar stayed up, expansion of that type is beyond their ability to fund the vision.
So can we have a work session next Tuesday at 9?
What I'm hearing is the airport right now is the priority. Is that correct?
Well,
I don't think we.
building facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to roll out our priorities for this year.
And if we had a work session where we get a whiteboard and put down all our buildings and just and give bullet points, what do we want to fix? What do we want to move? How do we use those buildings that are sitting empty there? I had a gentleman stop in my office last week and he wants the airport extended. He wants the old nursing home. He goes, you can make a restaurant. We could have Maplewood do that. And he had this whole plan for me.
Wow.
I had never thought of any of that. But that's what I think. We have to have a work session to be able to put this down on a board and look at it. And then what's needed at Riddle, they need a new roof and they need inside, the annex building I was in the other day. That's a pretty nice, strong building, and I don't think it costs a lot of money to fix that and utilize that. So, and I personally, right now, I don't think the county's near in shape to be able to be starting to build new buildings, and I've heard rumor tear this down, build it someplace else. We've got some good bones in our buildings, and that's what I think the work session would be.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know if, everyone keeps thinking that we should just tear the annex down. I mean,
Well, my idea, and again, and I don't know how much you want me to talk, but, the record center, the annex would be a nice site for possibly even that, and then that would free that building up. We've actually had interest in the
Yeah.
record center from other people as well. And given that it is right by the airport, that becomes an attractive option. Of course, if we sold it, I would hope we would chop the back half of the property off. And keep it for airport use. But anyway, but that's what we need to talk about is what facilities do we have the potential for the private sector to utilize, and can we vacate them? We're not gonna sell the annex to anyone because it's on our piece here. So could we use it for something else? It did not suit JFS partly because they had that packed like sardines. But is it viable office space if it wasn't packed so full? And is that a solution for the people in Riddle? Those are questions that I need answered. I know there is water issue in the basement. I don't know if it can be fixed or not.
I think Ohio State waterproofing could fix that in a couple
And
of weeks.
that may be, so, but that's why we've got to start
Absolutely.
saying, well, what do we want to use it for? The emergency room, whatever you want to call it, is sitting half empty. We do have a lot of space. It's scattered here and there, and that's what we started. Part of the reason that Janet and I moved to the 7th floor because we were trying to start consolidation. It was successful in that we were able to get JFS appropriate state, but then it kind of stopped. We were supposed to keep going with what's going to happen in the annex now.
That was about 3 years ago.
Stopped and sat. And anyway, similarly, Station 30, it's cheaper to replace one roof and have a bunch of stuff under it than it is to replace 10 roofs for each and every item. If we can consolidate our facilities, it just decreases the maintenance on roofing, parking lots, air conditioning, those type of things. So as a move away from some of the outside sites that we have and consolidate into one area. Those are all things
that
we
would be the
talk about.
ideal goal. And plus, then you gotta still remember, we got board elections.
They've
On the
constantly been saying
radar.
we need some stuff, yes.
We've got the old motor pool,
Mhm.
Station 30, the annex.
You still have your pretty going dam that you need to deal with. There's a long
Yeah.
list, but again, we need to get it all in front of
Yeah,
us and start
absolutely.
moving on it.
And start chipping away at it.
Is that what you want to do, Sabrina? Start next Tuesday? morning?
Yeah, next Tuesday at 9. Vicki, does that work for you?
yes.
Okay.
And I assume
Julie, can you?
you
put
want
that
Joanne
down?
and I here, is that?
Absolutely, yeah,
Can you
yes.
take those?
Yeah, everybody that's got input that knows more, or has more history, Joanne's got.
Yeah, I
Much
think
history.
that's a good start, but like when you talk about the Justice Center, obviously you're gonna have to have the sheriff in the room, talk about that building, when you talk about Riddle, it's,
Right.
So
You
that
gotta
would
have
be
the
break off groups, but I think as the general start to the plan,
We need to just,
certainly we need Joanne, maybe even Shannon, as
Yeah.
maintenance.
Right,
see
right,
what
right.
stuff is done. We can put that together for you, and we'll,
so can you,
and
Julie,
start facilities.
also invite Joanne? You think you need to invite Shannon too?
I would invite Joanne and Shannon.
Shannon,
if,
yeah.
And
I would
then
think so
Todd,
too.
So that we can
Yeah.
start, because Joanne definitely, I heard Shannon know the buildings. You have a list, at least, I probably still have a list somewhere of once the Board of Elections realized we weren't gonna buy a separate building, they came up with some stuff that they wanted. And I know Joanne and Shannon started working on some of this stuff,
Some of it can
but
be done, some of it can't, some of it can't unless we're gonna spend money. Again, we just need to get it all laid out in front of us, Your most dire buildings are the nursing home, the motor pool, Station 30, the old section of the Justice Center, the airport, and Riddle. After that, then you have space issues in the Ravenna Courthouse. And then with the prosecutor's office in this building, there's some money that we should spend now and avoid big problems later. So again, you have kind of different levels of where your facilities are at. But,
And we can rank them by priority, you know, depending on what needs to do. So I think next Tuesday, just so we can get moving along here on our agenda. We'll put that down for 9 o'clock. And then Julie, will you send everyone an invite?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Susan, what's the date?
Second.
Okay, Todd, you got
Starting with the bill run, I
resolutions?
did email it to you. Have you guys had a chance to review it? I printed copies for the people here. If you'd like them.
Yes, please.
Is that enough?
Okay, there you go.
It's like the bank teller.
Yeah.
That's what we do on treasurer's.
There is no wire for the health benefit. Number 2 can be crossed out on the resolution list. There's nothing particularly alarming in the bill run. You'll notice the high late fees, which is much higher than we would like them normally, but for this time of year, it's totally expected. Similarly with the then and now, I would expect through January to have high then and nows. Hopefully in February here, they'll start dying down to our normal levels. And scanning through the invoices, I think there were 3 from July, which is, the concerning time frame, but there were only 3, so it's not that big a deal. Almost all the others were from December and January, which is right where they should be for then and now. So for the first 3 resolutions, then 4 resolutions, there really are no issues per se.
So you crossed off resolution number 2?
Number 2 should not, does not.
Yeah, we
need
just
passed.
remove it off our agenda.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to approve the Thursday, January 28th, 2021 bill ACH payments as presented by the county auditor and review the department budget and financial management.
Second,
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to approve Thursday, January 28th, 2021 journal vouchers as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
Move that the Board of Commissioners agrees to approve the Thursday, January 28th, 2021 then and now certification as presented by the county auditor and reviewed by the Department of Budget and Financial Management.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
It is moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to transfer $55,000 from the fund of 0001 general fund to fund 1131 rise.
I'm sorry, just noticing that should be a cash advance for that fund. Is the resolution itself written as a cash advance?
No, it is not. It's transfer.
Yeah, because that's for that grant money, isn't it? That they're
On
gonna
the-
get reimbursed.
The resolution written itself, is it written as a cash advance?
Um,
If so, it just needs corrected in the reading.
So the transfer should be cash advance, Todd?
Right, for both numbers 6,
No,
5,
it
and
says
6.
5, okay.
I apologize, I will get you new resolutions. These are supposed to be cash advances.
did you need us to hold them until next week or you just?
You can read
Get
them
them
as
back.
cash advances and we will be good.
Okay,
It's the same dollar amount for the same area, it just should be a cash
Cash
advance.
advance.
Once the grant money comes in, these will be reimbursed.
okay.
Second,
It is moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to a cash advance of $55,000 from Fund 0001 General Fund to Fund 1131 Rise.
second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
It is moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to cash advance of $60,000 from the Fund 001 General Fund to Fund 1130 Hope.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
It is moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to amend the non-general fund from 2021 Annual Appropriations Resolution number 20-0803 adopted December 17, 2020.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina,
Yes.
I asked the board to delay on journal entry number 1 again. We weren't sure if Chris was going to have his review done. We had not heard from him yet, so that can wait another week. And then number 2 is just the satisfaction of one of the revolving loan mortgages.
Okay.
It is moved the Board of Commissioners signature request on the satisfaction of the mortgage for Nancy A. Smith of 252 East Hale Street, Streetsboro, Ohio, 44241 to secure payment of $1,585. The original document will be recorded by Neighborhood Development Services, Inc.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina.
Yes.
Then there's an add-on. Kelly Jo has still not heard from the state regarding one of her grants. So she is asking for a cash advance, partly until they get their property tax money in February, but partly until they hear about that grant, the timing of it. I believe they have the grant, they just need to know when it's coming. So this will get them through until they know what it's going to be.
Okay, so for them to get cash advance on their levy money?
That was advancing the money. That's a generic resolution just to move the money to them. This is, but that still won't come until February.
And they need this when? Because we're almost done February. I mean, today's 28.
That'll come towards the end of February. They currently have $100,000. They started the year with almost $500,000. So partly as they catch up these bills that have been sitting on the desks. Again, Kelly Jo asked for this as just a safeguard measure. It is a cash advance, so it will need returned.
Because it says transfer again, Todd.
Are you on this or
The
on the
budget.
last sheet of this?
This is the add-on. It says,
Okay,
it should be,
right.
I apologize. All of these should
It's
be
it's
cash.
Better be
a
cash
cash
advance.
advance. Where are you at?
Yeah, it's this. So you would read
Okay.
up there. Yep.
Okay, all right, yeah, cash advance is in the lower portion of it.
Okay.
It's not in the header.
It is moved that for a cash advance from Fund 0001 to the general fund to Fund 1415, CWSP levy.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina.
Yes.
And I'll get those changed to cash advances. I apologize for that.
Todd, did we find out anything more regarding the King Kennedy?
That is totally in the commissioner's court. They basically did some basic grading, but nothing more.
Okay.
There is the distinct impression by the people involved in the project that the commissioners are giving them the money. And I shouldn't say giving outright, but that the money is coming for them to use for the project. However, it has never been officially approved. The journal entry in December said that the revolver could be used, but it did not indicate that it was going to be the conditions under which the commissioners were doing it. So financially, it had no impact, although it did give the perception that it's happening. The CDBG program is an every other year now. Last year was a CDBG year.
Mhm.
Our thought was always that the revolvers would be used now to fill the hole. So you'd have grant, revolver,
year,
grant,
yeah.
revolver, so that we're always keeping these type of projects moving.
But
It
this
is
is the
possible,
revolver, it's not the CDBG.
this is out of the revolver.
Yeah.
correct. It's possible that this project could still fit into the revolver process, and approvals for that could come to the board April, May. I just spoke with Mike Bogo yesterday. Or the board has the option of simply doing it now and proceeding individually with this product. It's totally at your pleasure.
Well, here's my problem with it. I called Stacy Brown about it, and our new process that we spent a year putting together to process these requests was totally disregarded.
That is correct.
And that's my issue, because the whole reason we put the process in place is so that it would be fair and equitable to
Mhm.
everyone to have the chance. And I was told that process was not followed.
And that was at the request of a commissioner.
Yes, Commissioner Clyde is
It
my
was
understanding.
brought up that this was not within the normal process, but she did want to proceed. So I just want to point that out. It's not like
I
MDS
know,
or
but
anybody was
see,
skipping that process.
I don't like this because we're making exceptions and like I said, there's a process in place and it needs to be followed.
So the process with this loan, there's multiple things that weren't followed. One is we're not saying it's a payback grant. Two is none of the paperwork that follows it was done. It was supposed to, after the paperwork, this was supposed to follow it, was not done. So none of our
yeah.
procedures were done. So can we give them, you need to do a do-over?
So what used to happen was projects would come to the board willy-nilly.
Right.
You get one in April, you get one in August. There was a general undercurrent in the community that, we didn't have a chance. So last year was actually the first year where we tried to combine all the requests into a central timeline where people had to submit it by a certain date.
Mm-hmm.
It was evaluated using a rubric, and then the commissioners were given the result of that.
Right.
The commissioners still have the opportunity, if there's a very low-ranked project, you still have the opportunity to say, no, I want that one funded anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But at least you have a process where all the projects.
And that
are presented
process
to you at once.
wasn't going through at
So
all.
this project what proceeded after that process had concluded.
I like processes and procedures. I have to live by them every day in my office, and I think we should change it, that the process is followed or we don't do it.
And I called to see what documentation they gave because you had alluded that there was no payback. So I'm like, what financials, what proof did they, I want to see what fundraising, they've done for this project. I know the Mental Health and Recovery Board donated 125. I know the state Mental Health Recovery Board donated like 500,000. And my question was, what is their ability to repay? Because, it is a revolver and it's supposed to be paid, whether it be paid at the time they sell the property or they make payments, which most likely it would be at the time if they were to ever sell the property, because that money then goes back into the pot to be reused for other businesses. And that's not what was done here. They basically said, well, one commissioner said, this is what I want and this is what you need to do, and basically shut down the whole thing that you spent a year with NDS and regional planning putting together a process, because all we ever heard is, well, we didn't know this was there. We didn't know this. So we put it so it was more fair and equitable, that everyone had an opportunity. And that's not what happened here. And this is what we want to avoid.
How do we change that?
So I believe that no work currently has progressed. And so what we can do is get them to submit a normal application within the normal time frame. In fact, Mike was checking, this time of year is when we do our meeting where we begin drawing the people in and asking them for their projects. Because we aren't a CDBG grant, the CDBG grant has processes it requires. We can kind of proceed on the off years with a schedule of our choosing. So it is possible that if we accept projects, evaluate them, we could have something to the board by April, certainly by May.
Yep.
Where you could choose the projects again based on ranking or based on your own desires. And then if this project not approved in that process, again, you would state whether it's we call them deferred loans, where they pay it back if the property's ever sold, or whether there are payments expected. And then you can proceed with getting whoever is supposed to get the money. That is one method of proceeding, and I don't believe it would overly impact the project. I have not talked to the people myself, so I don't know that for sure. But based on the anecdotal evidence I've heard about, I don't think it would impact the project.
I talked to one of the board members about this, about my discontent on how this played out. And they said they would be fine to delay it, that they would have the money to cover, in the meantime, while they.
Well, there is, it's a $700,000 project. This is just to finish it. So they do have funding in place.
Was the funding always that the commissioners was going to
No.
get 124?
No, it was originally mental health grants. They proceeded with design and everything, and like I said, they even started doing some grading work. And then they realized there was something with fire sprinklers and attaching the building.
Water
Yeah,
systems,
it was a
And
lot of.
that was adding
expense.
money that nobody had anticipated for. And so basically they came to us and said, no one else wants to can now because we've already sort of started. Can you guys give us this amount to finish it? And so that's sort of how it came to the commissioners.
Has there been any fundraising?
I believe they've made efforts over the years. I couldn't honestly tell you the dollar amount if they have. I do know that there have been donations. I know Frank Harrison donated.
$100, I think.
Yeah, that's what I don't know, the total dollar amount. I think it was a small
When
portion.
Mr. Harrison and Geraldine Nelson came in to originally talk to us about this, I specifically asked that he provide that information. I was not provided that information. And that's why I called NDS, because I thought, well, surely if they're the administrators of our revolver, if they recommended that we approve this, now I was off the day that Vicki and Kathleen approved it, but I thought surely they would have something in place. And they had nothing.
Right, because it didn't follow the normal
It
process.
didn't follow the
There wasn't an
process.
application or anything.
So my desire is to have it follow the process.
If we've got one, I like processes.
We will get that word out, and then if there is feedback, we will deliver it to you. Otherwise, hopefully it will proceed under that process.
Okay,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Did I do everything we did there?
Yes,
I
I'm
think you did.
sorry, I sort of.
We took sidetracked here.
Now, will you get a hold of NDS then, Todd?
I'll let
and
Mike
them-
Logo know and
Yeah,
have him
Stace.
reach out. I believe Mark Frazone is involved in the project, and we'll get word.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you.
All right, I think we're to, did we approve the minutes? I don't think so, not yet.
We're at the miscellaneous.
Yeah,
Pardon?
Miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous. It is moved that the Board of Commissioners approve the January 21st, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Second,
roll call, Jules?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina.
Yes.
Please.
Go
It
ahead.
is moved that the Board of Commissioners approve the Ohio Department of Transportation 2020 County Highway System Mileage Certification, that the total length of Portage County Maintenance Public Roads was 368. Is that a comma or?
Yeah. I
Point
think it- yeah,
03.
Point, okay, is 368.276 miles as of December 31st, 2020, as presented by the county engineer, Mickey.
Second,
Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes,
Sabrina.
Yes.
it was moved that in accordance with the ORC section 5126.038, the Board of Commissioners acknowledge the receipt of a 2021 estimate payments of the Developmental Disability Board membership dues, professional services, and training as presented by the Portage County Board of Development Disabilities.
Second,
Roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes,
Sabrina.
Yes.
it is moved that the Board of Commissioners agrees to reappoint Nicholas Lindsay as the
Inquiry.
apiary inspector and shall receive for the 2021 apiary season beginning March 15th, 2021 through October 31st, 2021, weather permitting. The Board of Commissioners agrees to sign and submit the 2021 appointment to the county apiary inspector form as presented by the Ohio Department of Agriculture.
Second,
Okay, before I do roll call on this, just a note to you and Tony, Vicky. Today, the apiary always reported to Todd, which is odd because there's no real good director that fits on. He's the county beekeeper is what apiary. And so then when Gene was the county administrator, we moved the apiary under Gene. Well, Gene's not there. So I told Julie to just put it under the Board of Commissioners for now.
okay,
Yeah. Okay, roll call?
Vicky,
yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina.
Yes.
It's moved that the Board of County Commissioners acknowledge the receipt of January 22, 2021 certificate of county auditor and the total appropriations from each fund do not exceed the official estimate resources of the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021, as presented by the Portage County Auditor's Office.
Second,
Okay, roll call.
Vicky,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Sabrina.
Yes. Okay, is there anything else to come before the board? We can't adjourn yet because we got public comment at 11, but we can recess unless Vicky or Tony has anything else they want to discuss at this time.
Recess would be awesome.
Recess is good.
Okay, so Julie, we'll recess until